Welcome to the latest episode of the Claus Corner. In the early 1970s, toy store owner Barbara Atlas asked my next guest to develop a show around a little toy beanbag frog called Freddie. 196 episodes and over 600 songs later, a classic was born. Many topics were discussed in a fun, entertaining way that made learning fun. They included knowledge, sounds, art, courage, imagination, pride, eating, loneliness, brain, time, growing up, and many, many more. As the song says, with Doug and Emmy Joe, every day is a different show. I remember rushing off of the school bus to ensure that I didn't miss a single second of my favorite show. I am now a proud new Zoo kid. So without further ado, please welcome two of the nicest people I ever had the pleasure of meeting. Doug and Emmy Joe from the new Zoo Revue, coming right at you.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thanks, Rich.
We're so glad to be here.
I'm so glad
I
to
can
have
tell
you.
you.
I love that show. I grew up watching it in 1972. I was 4 years old. And I remember, as I said in the intro, just rushing off the school bus. I had to get there on time. I had to see the beginning. You have the all-time catchiest theme song.
It does. I agree.
Thank you.
I have to say, because I've been watching so many episodes getting ready for this interview, and my girlfriend and I could not stop singing it. She goes, "This song is so catchy." I said, "I know, I love it."
Thank you so much. I mean, who knew 50 years ago when I wrote it that it would be catchy and that people would still remember it?
Oh, I know. Well, the funny thing is the only ones that didn't think that people would remember it are you two. So I want to talk about how you came to where you are right now. And that was who I met at the convention, at the Super Mega Fest in Natick, Mass. A couple weeks ago. And that was your daughter. She was the best. And how did she get you two started to where you are right now, 50 years later?
She's amazing. Joanna is amazing. She actually was born right before our fourth season.
Yeah.
So she's a new Zoo kid. And she just came over to the house New Year's Eve about a year and a half ago, and just said, "Mom and Dad, I think you need to come onto social media." Yep. And it was amazing. Yeah. I wasn't sure I wanted to do it, to be honest.
Well, she told us that you don't realize what an impact your show had, and I think you need to get out there and greet everybody who was influenced by your show. And we were like, really?
Yeah, and now since it's happened, and we just it keeps growing and growing, and we're having the opportunity to meet so many of you new Zoo kids. It's very rewarding, and it's just wonderful. And I'm so grateful to Joanna for doing that.
Yeah, who knew that we were going to have 70,000 plus followers just in a year and a half? I mean, wow. That's pretty cool for an old kid show.
You think when have your daughter check out my social media feed, because I need some help with that.
Yeah, she's amazing. She's got a great instinct for everything. She really does.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk about that because I might be incorrect with the number, but I think you did a live Facebook. And the first time was there like 50,000 people, something like that.
We're not up on the technology, but it was a lot. Yeah. It was, and we were just so thankful. We had never done a Facebook Live before, didn't even know what it was. Yeah. So we've learned a lot in this year and a half.
Well, it seems like the two of you caught on very, very quickly, and I love this. And as I mentioned off the air, I want to mention it on the air as well, because this is like my 203rd, 204th interview, and I have to say, first of all, you two are two of the nicest people I ever met. But I've dealt with so many publicists, I've dealt with so many family members trying to get interviews with people. Your daughter and Danny, who helped me get this interview, have been so great, so nice, so helpful. So I gotta give a shout out to both your daughter and Danny for helping me get this interview.
Oh, that's so nice of you.
And I know Danny will really appreciate it too, because he's helped us out a lot. He's got us on interview with WGN, where our show was very big in Chicago, and we have roots in Chicago because W. Clement Stone, the insurance magnate, funded a lot of our episodes after Mattel Toys. So we were happy that he is on board with us and getting us interviews.
Well, let's go back to the beginning of the show anyway. I'm going to go back to Doug and Emmy Joe, the early years later. But I want to talk about the beginning of the show because, as I mentioned in the intro, There was a toy store owner, and your mother was working for her, and she had a beanbag frog, and she says, I really want to make a TV show about this. And what happened next?
Well, I first of all, I didn't know whether I wanted to do a kids show because both Emily and I were in musical theater and our eyes were on Broadway, and
Ah,
I also had a rock and roll band, and my eyes were on being a rock star. So when she said, "Hey, can you create a kids show?" I thought, and I went to Emily. I said, "Well, okay, I'll try it." So I went home to my mom's house, sat in my bedroom, and wrote the theme song, sketched out the characters, sketched out what I thought would be a pretty cool little show. And I took it into Barbara, and she thought, "Wow, this is really good. I like this." And the theme song was as you hear it today. I mean,
really?
basically,
How
yeah,
long did it
on
take
my
you to write
guitar.
that?
About a half hour.
He's very prolific and he writes very quickly.
Yeah, as you said in the intro, 600 songs. Well, I could write a song about any subject.
Yeah.
So if somebody wants a song, I could probably write about it.
I'm sure.
But
you
anyway,
can.
that's how it really was born. And then we refined the audition a little bit, and she got us an audition with Mattel Toys.
How was that? How did she have that connection? Because she was a toy store owner?
Because she is
She
a
had
owned a
a
toy store.
toy store.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and originally, I want to talk about this. I know that you had Henrietta the Hippo, you had Freddie the Frog, but it wasn't Charlie the Owl. What was it?
It was,
Charlie the Giraffe.
Yes. And why did you change it from a giraffe to an owl?
think about the tree house, think about the elevator,
Yes.
and okay, how are you going to get a giraffe in the elevator? You can't. So,
Yeah.
so it just made sense. And we needed a wise, somebody who thought they were wise, but was also a foil
Mhm.
for everyone on the show. I mean, he wasn't necessarily the villain, but he was kind of out there with his ideas, and he was a crotchety old owl, and that kind of helped fuel a lot of episodes and a lot of stories. And so that's how it was changed. And initially, Emmy Joe, you were Emmy Joe,
Yes.
but I was Xenophanes Zoo.
Oh, really?
I'm so glad he changed that.
Yeah, to
Me
Doug.
too.
But that's the story.
Wow. And so did it take off right away?
Well, no, you could tell about that.
Get there.
Well, no, but tell about the audition process.
The audition. Well, we had to audition for Mattel Toys.
Mhm.
And that was like really any theater audition. We had to go onto in a darkened auditorium up on the stage, and we played all the parts, and we thought we did a great job. We thought they would be cheering and saying, "When can we get started?" But it was just silent. And like so many, well, many times in an audition, you don't
Yeah.
get a reaction right away. So
Mhm.
we had to wait, but it turned out they were very, very excited. And before you know it, we were doing the pilot, and it was exactly at the same time that Doug and I got married. So we came back from our wedding and went right to work taping the pilot.
Yeah, well, they were having to build the
Yeah,
set
build the set.
from my sketches. And so-
That's right. He did
Yeah.
sketches on American Airlines stationery
Yeah,
on the way back, and those were, I guess, given to the artists who actually built
Yeah, well,
the set.
they were given to the guys that drew up the blueprints, and because it was really a designed set, with a lighting grid and landscape architect, and
Mm.
you name it, we had it on there. And they really brought it to life. We had a
Mhm.
lot of great, wonderful people helping with the design, and not to mention the fact we had Sid and Marty Croft
Yep.
build our costumes, and that was one of the most wonderful things about the convention
We got to-
where we met you,
Yeah.
is that I got to finally meet Sid Croft. Now, his brother had since passed away,
Mhm.
and we had never met them. We had been to their shop when they were constructing our costumes, but we never met them.
No.
So it was a thrill to meet him, and he was so gracious. We took our pictures with him, and he said he liked our show. I said I liked his show, so it was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was fun.
Well, that's also very impressive. How did you two, because Sid and Marty Krofft were the it thing back then. How did you walk in there and say, "I want you to design our costumes"?
We didn't.
I don't know how that happened.
Yeah.
We were very fortunate.
Like
Yeah.
I said, we had people behind the scenes who had connections.
I was gonna
And
say,
they thought that they would be the best person, and it turned out they were the best company to
Oh, yeah.
build our costumes, because they had to really be alive. I mean,
Yeah.
you had to believe that Freddie was a little boy, and Henrietta was a Southern belle, and Charlie was an owl that was a scientist. And so you know, like Emily said, she always believed that Henrietta was real and wanted to live in her house.
It was very easy because the set was so magical, and the costume and Larry Thomas, who was the dancer inside the costume, was just so fabulous that it's very easy to pretend that she was real.
Yeah. Well, I know maybe you wanted to live there, but from watching a couple of the episodes the other night, you definitely didn't want to clean the place. I remember that.
Yeah, no, that's for sure.
Henrietta loved to eat and make a mess, but hey, Emmy Joe, clean it up, no problem.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah, no.
So how old were the two of you when this show started? You had to be in your early 20s, I'm thinking.
Goodness, we were very young.
Yes, that's impressive.
We were so young. I honestly can't remember. I think I was maybe 26,
Wow.
27.
I was 23.
Because I think when
20.
Joanna was born, I was almost 30. So
Yeah.
I think I was like 26, 27
Yeah.
when we first started.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I know I was 23. And
We were very young.
so we were young, but it was pretty cool.
Now, because as I mentioned, and everybody who's watching this probably knows the show, loves the show, and has seen it before, that you always taught lessons, as I mentioned, kindness, brain, time, working. Did you ever consult a child psychologist to get a little bit deeper on the subject when you're doing the writing, or do you just go from your experiences growing up?
Well, it was actually our experiences growing up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of them were my experiences, and I'll tell you, Rich, it was a lot of it was just instinct. What Emily and I felt that see, and what other shows were not doing.
Mhm.
You know, we
And
didn't
things that we brought from our childhood
Yeah.
Yeah.
and our parents.
and values
Mhm.
and that kind of thing. And so we just felt that there was room for this because the other shows were doing ABC 1, 2, 3, and we wanted to, flip that on its head and say, well, how do you get along with your brothers, your sister, your teachers, your mom and dad?
And we
And-
wanted it to be fun.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
Children learn well if it's a fun environment. And
That
I
is
think
true. And
that
I also
was-
love the fact you didn't talk down to kids. You made it
No.
fun. It was entertaining.
Yeah.
The music was great. I love the music.
Yeah.
I'm listening to the songs. And you mentioned you wrote over 600 songs in from 72 to 77. And there was, from what I was reading, I want you can correct me if I'm wrong. There's 3 songs per episode.
yes, yeah.
Okay.
Plus the theme song.
Theme song.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
plus the
Can't forget
theme
the theme
song.
song.
And there was sometimes 4 songs in each episode. It depends how the songs were used to move the story along. And sometimes there were reprises. But the cool thing about writing the songs was I could let it be a musical comedy for
Right.
kids.
Yeah.
And so there was dialogue back and forth in the songs. And as you said, I didn't want to write down to the kids. I didn't write our music to be, one kind of that sing-along kind of
Yeah.
kid stuff. I mean, I wanted to be musical comedy that kids and parents could laugh at and just have a good time. So we had great musicians, and I was allowed to just let my imagination go.
Yeah. Well, I have to say, rewatching it now, as an adult, I appreciate the sarcasm a lot more than I did maybe as a kid. I know there's 2. We're going to get into who the actors. I know we're going to get into, like, there was one person who was in the costume, another person
Yeah.
did voices, but the 2 people that played Charlie, he was, I don't know
Oh.
if it was ad-libbed, but he was hilarious. Some of the things he came out with, especially
Yes.
with Henrietta.
Especially Bill Calloway, who came in the second season.
Yes.
He was hilarious. it was hard to just even to keep a straight face with Bill.
Oh, that's true. I mean, and he was that way in the recording studio when we would be recording the songs, because if there was a couple measures where nobody said anything or there was no melody or lyrics, he would make up his own and make up a line,
And he was just really, really good at improvisation.
yeah, and then we all kind of caught on, and we were just all improvising. So
Well, I'm glad you mentioned it because on YouTube, anybody could see this. There are some outtakes that definitely were not in the show, and I think you know what I'm talking about, right?
we don't
Freddie.
even like to talk about that,
Okay.
Rich, because we didn't know about it. We're embarrassed by it, and we just don't. It's not what our show was about.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, and I understand that. And I just
Yeah.
wanted a question for you. Like, was that obviously that was the crew that was laughing because, but was that done like without even anybody's knowledge?
They
were just
didn't know. We didn't know. Played it at I think it was at a cast party.
It was a Christmas cast party
And
of all things.
I remember sitting there and I was just horrified, and I
Yeah.
looked at it and I thought, I hope nobody ever sees this.
Yeah.
And that was before social media or anything.
yeah.
Right, it was
So
on
it
was on 2-inch tape. Somebody
Yeah.
pirated it. I mean,
and
Yeah.
it's everywhere.
of course, once it gets out there now, it's
And
forget
Joanna
it.
handles this so well because we get a lot of times people will comment on social media and they'll on Facebook and say, well, this is out there and I saw it and ha ha ha. And Joanna sends them a private message and just explains that we just don't want to go there, that's not something that we're proud of.
Yeah.
And I'm thankful that we didn't.
Yeah,
Participate.
it was unfortunate.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Well,
really
sorry
was.
sorry to bring it up, but I mean, I personally
No.
thought it
Well,
was
that's
funny,
okay.
and it would never ever deter me from liking the show. I think the show was great, and I thought that was just hilarious. And I know it obviously had nothing to do with the show. It just the reason I brought that up was because when you mentioned improv, I could tell that it seemed like, and correct me if I'm wrong, the two people, the one who played Freddie and the one who played Charlie, seems like they had a really good friendship, and they just kept going back and forth, back and forth.
Yeah.
That's the impression I got.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Unfortunately, they were, and even to this day, Sharon, who was inside of Charlie,
Mhm.
and Yanko, who was inside of
Mhm.
Freddie, regret ever doing it.
It was just
Yeah.
Just unfortunate.
and unfortunate and just trying to be funny. That's
Yep.
all.
Well, let's move on to a happier subject then.
Okay.
You two were involved in all aspects of the show. You did the writing, the acting, the filming.
Yeah, I was not involved in anything but the acting.
Okay,
We
so you were
put
the
that
acting
out on
part.
table.
And Doug was not only acting, you were also behind the scenes writing and doing some in filming. Did you ever direct any of the episodes?
Well, I did make the director's life miserable because after every take, I would run back to the truck and say, "Can I see that?" And then I would say, "Can we redo that?"
Yeah,
And of course, the answer was no, we don't have the budget to redo it a lot of the time. But some of the time he said, "Okay, let's do another take." But
Right, well, that's a
it
good
was-
question. How many takes approximately did you do for each scene?
It was one and done.
yeah. I
Wasn't
mean, we did it pretty fast. I mean, we weren't allowed to redo things too many times.
No, because we had rehearsed the show on Monday, 2 shows actually, the blocking, the choreography, the lip syncing, just rehearse the whole thing, and then we'd tape those 2 shows on Tuesday,
Wow.
and so it was, they were full on shows, full on musicals that we had to actually do live
Mhm.
because the syncing of the audio was right there as it happened. It was playback to the stage, and those characters had to move their mouth when they heard their voice. So it was a challenge. And nowadays, we'll just sync it later.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's
We'll
much
fix-
easier
we'll
than it
fix
would
in-
than it is. Yeah.
We'll fix it in post.
Yeah, it's definitely much easier now than it is for what you two went through. So did you mention that you did 2 shows per week, or
Actually, 4.
4 shows per week you recorded?
Yeah, we
Wow.
rehearsed we rehearsed 2 shows on Monday, shot them on Tuesday, rehearsed 2 shows on Wednesday, shot them on Thursday, and then Friday we pre-recorded a whole album for the next week.
Oh my God.
So
As I mentioned before, I love the music. Did you have a full band that you gave the songs to and they recorded it and then you played it live while filming?
well, actually, I was just privileged to be in the studio band. So
Yep.
I was playing acoustic guitar with my guys in the band, and that was a lot of fun. I can tell you that. So, yeah, we pre-recorded everything, and then the voices came in and laid their voice on, and then they played it back to the soundstage, and we had to remember what we did.
Did you ever have any issues memorizing your lines? Because I mean, everything's done so quickly.
Well, I got to brag on Emmy Jo. She was the only one that actually memorized her lines, being an accomplished actress.
Well, I didn't get along well with cue cards, and I was so worried that if you look at the cue cards, they can tell that you're not looking at the person. I mean, if
Yeah.
it's done well, you can't tell. But I hadn't had any experience in television, so that was kind of intimidating to me. And so the easiest thing for me was just to memorize everything. So that's what I did.
And she did, but I just didn't have time to memorize it. So
No.
I was looking for the cue cards and asking them can you move it over their left shoulder, right shoulder, so my eye contact will be okay? So, I mean, and it wasn't a teleprompter, it was physical cue cards that
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
people had to change like a deck of cards.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, from what I heard, Marlon Brando could never memorize his lines. So he used to have the dialogue on the other actor's chest or on the wall behind him. So he never memorized anything.
I heard that.
Yeah.
That gives me a lot of comfort.
You're in
I
good
hadn't
company.
heard that story. That's fascinating. I had not heard that.
Yeah. What I found interesting, at least in the first season, where'd you film the show?
Oh, well,
I don't remember.
well,
remember.
the first season was done in the Desilu Studios, where they filmed I Love Lucy and Star Trek, I think. And then we moved on to Cinema General, it was called. It might have been Desilu, but they just changed the name. And then MGM, and then we ended up at the Burbank, which is now Warner Brothers. So we moved around a lot.
So when you first started in '72, did you have any interaction with Desi Arnaz? Was he still part of that?
No, we had no interaction with anybody.
Okay.
Other than the hippo and the frog and the owl.
Well, you know what I also found interesting too is how many cameras did you use?
3. We have 3 cameras.
We believe it or not, we had 3
And a boom.
and a boom
Yeah.
camera.
Yeah.
So, but the boom was only used on occasion because we had to use one of the cameramen to run the boom. So it was 3 cameras basically, and it was switched live.
Yeah. Well, the reason I brought that up was that from what I read, because I read a whole book on Desi Arnaz and Lucy, and he was one of the first people to actually use 3 cameras for I Love Lucy.
Really? That's interesting.
Yeah, no, he was. And you know, I had a question the other day, what would you do differently? And I came up with an idea. I would love to do it before a live studio audience. That would have been fun.
What was the reason that you didn't use a studio audience?
It just never came up. I don't.
Well, we
maybe
just couldn't logistically with how hot it was in the costumes, and we couldn't do a whole show all at once because the dancers would have been
well, that's true.
Exhausted.
The reason that we didn't do it was because the magic would have been lost
Yeah.
for those audience members that would see, you know, the head of the hippo come off and,
Oh yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and she'd be so tired because
Oh,
they worked so hard. Oh my goodness.
exhausting.
Because it was hot on the set and those costumes were just hot.
Yeah, and there was, you know, we had to turn the air conditioning off many times because it interfered with the audio because there was live audio on stage. You know, when the tape wasn't rolling, so it was a challenge.
So what would you do? Film at least one scene, take a break, film another scene, put the costumes back on?
Mhm.
That's
Oh,
exactly
yeah.
right.
All three animals, they had to have breaks, frequent breaks.
Yeah.
And of course, we shot it out of sequence, which you have to do. Like all the scenes in Freddie's house were done at once, all the scenes in Henrietta's, and then it was pieced together in editing.
Yeah, well, it was done very, very well. First of all, if you didn't tell me about the cue cards, I would never know. So you pulled it off, Doug. You pulled it off very well.
Thank you.
And the
Thank
editing,
you.
I never would have known. I mean, I know how TV and movies are made now, but like I would never think that. It seems like it's just one seamless take. That's it. It's
Well, that is,
done that well.
I take that as a huge compliment. Thank you. And I'll tell you the characters inside the costumes had to use cue cards too because they were looking at the cue cards to get the lyrics right of the song and also the dialogue
That's true.
when their voice was going to come on. Because if they were moving and their voice wasn't there, it would look really cool off. You know,
It would look
So-
like those
so-
old Asian movies where they're dubbing with the English.
Yeah. It's all, hey, out of sync,
Yes, exactly. No, all right. Well, I'm glad you brought that up. It's a great segue for what I want to ask next. So while the actors in the suits are dancing and moving the mouth, where are the voice actors?
Well,
They're off the set with their microphones.
in a sound booth, actually, a padded sound area where they were watching a monitor of what was going on stage. And they were have to be pretty far away because we didn't want any feedback on Emmy, Joe, and my mic, from their voiceover, because their voiceover had to be broadcast literally to the sound stage. So the animals and Emmy, Joe, and I could hear it. So they were off sequestered,
Yeah.
with their own microphone and their own monitor.
And now that I'm watching it, I'm trying to figure out how they could actually see. What were they looking at? Like, for example, let's talk with about Freddie. Was he looking through the mouth, the actor, so he could see what he's doing?
Yep,
Okay.
his was through his mouth, so
And-
he would have it a little bit open,
Yep.
so he could see. But it wasn't a good vision.
I can imagine. Yeah.
But that's why you have to compliment the Yanko because he would dance and twirl and go up and down steps and jump off of tables and
Oh,
I mean it just was
And
amazing.
Sharon
And
and
not be able to see.
yeah. And Sharon in Charlie's costume and Larry in Henrietta's costume. I mean, she was amazing.
Oh yeah.
There was one show where she threw a temper tantrum and she lay down on the ground and kicked her legs and did things in that costume that I'm still amazed that she was able to do that.
Henrietta's only view was through the nostrils
Oh wow.
her nose.
That's
And Charlie,
What did he have?
her view was only through some mesh on the eyes.
That's right. I
And
forgot.
but it was very cloudy, and especially if you're sweating and you're just exhausted. I mean, it's a testimony that to them how we ever pulled it off.
How professional they were. And they were all very accomplished dancers and
Yeah.
performers
Yeah,
in their own right.
and
for sure.
they really once we got rolling, they enjoyed it.
Yeah,
I mean, I think it was fun for them.
we
I
were a
really did.
family.
I think that I used to be in radio, and they used to always say, you don't have to be funny, but if you're having fun, that's going to translate to the audience. And that's exactly
Yes.
what that show does. New Zoo Revue did for me, and I'm sure so many other people. I could tell everybody was family, and you're having fun, and you really just liked each other. Sometimes you could
Yeah.
tell, like, that as soon as they walk off the set, they're not talking to each other. But with this, it seems
Oh, that
every-
never happened.
No, exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's
Yeah.
like with that show, I would never think that. Other shows you could sort of tell, but with your show, I could tell everybody was one big family. And I want to give kudos to the people that we're talking about with Freddie, Henrietta, and Charlie. And you mentioned Yanko. I'm going to pronounce Yanko's last name incorrectly, but it's Inone. How does it pronounce? Inon?
Yeah, Ione,
Ione. And
Yanko.
yep, Yanko was a choreographer and dancer, and some of the things that he did, 1979 special, Hello, Here is Berlin, Sesame Street Mystery, The Case of the Missing, Rarvire Avis, was it Broadway, did How Now, Doe Jones, Hyman Kaplan, and then the voice for Freddie was Joni Robbins, and she did
Brilliant.
dozens of commercials: Dunkin' Donuts, Canon Copiers, Mineral Ice, Shoe Town, Nickelodeon's Kung Fu Spy Trolls, Hanna-Barbera's Yogi's Treasure Hunt. So many different things, so many great. I mean, that's just those two people. That's the two people that played Freddie. And I have to,
They just all were just so accomplished.
yeah.
And Larry, who was in the Henrietta's costume,
Yeah,
was
Larry Thomas.
one of the great dancers in Hollywood.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's go to, I want to talk about Larry, because Larry Thomas, she was in The Sound of Music, Mary Poppins, The Music Man, Peter Gunn, South Pacific, Guys and Dolls, The Dean Martin Show, Westinghouse Desilu Playhouse, House of Wax, and many, many, many more. I ran out of room writing all of the credits for Larry.
Yeah. Absolutely right.
And then Hazel, is it Sherman?
Oh my goodness,
The
Hazel.
voice
The voice of Henrietta.
Yes. So let's give her a shout out for all the things she did. She was in more than 100 television commercials, which included Borax, Charmin, Head and Shoulders, Hunt's Tomato Paste, and one time she appeared in seven national television commercials airing simultaneously across the United States, which earned her a cover photo from the Commercial Actor magazine as the publication's Actress of the Month. And she was in a
Well, that's interesting. I did not know that.
He did his research.
Yeah, we learned something tonight.
You want to know some more about her? She
Yeah.
was in Star is
That's
Born, Gypsy, Bye Bye Birdie, Love at First Bite with George Hamilton. So that's Henrietta, Larry Thomas, Hazel Sherman. Now we got to get to Charlie Diallo.
Yes.
Sharon Bird, you mentioned her several times.
Sharon Baird.
Baird. Don't want to pronounce her name incorrectly. She was a Mouseketeer.
She was my favorite Mouseketeer,
Yep.
little Sharon.
Forget Nut Funicello. Sharon Beard was mine. I agree with you. She was in the films Bloodhounds of Broadway, The Colgate Comedy Hour, Artists and Models with Dean Martin. She and then Bob Hope. Well, actually, I want to talk about this because there was two voices for Charlie.
Yes.
Bob Hope was the first one, and Bob
Yes.
Hope he played Octavius Caesar and Julius Caesar. Bedknobs and Broomsticks, The Lorax, Dr. Seuss on the Loose, The Grinch, Grinch is the Cat in the Hat, Charlotte's Web. Why did he leave the show so early?
We never knew because we weren't privy to some of the producing and directing decisions.
Well, we don't know if it was his choice.
Yeah, we don't
Or
know.
we don't know. We don't know what happened. We just know that the second season we had Bill Calloway.
Yeah.
But I was in touch with Bob's wife for many, many years after he died pretty young.
Yeah.
And Mitzi and I were in close touch, and she never spoke about that to me. So I don't know.
Yeah.
But he was
But he was
guy.
brilliant. He could sing and he could do dialogue, and he was Charlie. He brought that character to life.
always reminded me a little bit of Bob Hope, just something in his personality, and
Well, the way he looked.
he looked a little
he
bit
had
like
that,
Bob Hope.
that ski slope
Yeah.
nose.
Yeah. Well, then
Very nice.
What's funny because watching it, I don't think I ever would have known that there was a change because their voices sound very similar. I'm sure they did that for that reason. So no, but it's just that I mean, watching from '72, then I'll watch an episode from '76.
Can't tell.
I couldn't tell. But Bill Calloway, which we mentioned several times, I didn't realize this. He was Aquaman in Super Friends,
Yes.
Aladdin, Captain Caveman. He was in Darkwing Duck, DuckTales, Gober Pyle, USMC, Gunsmoke, Pac-Man, Richie Rich, and once again, like with every other cast member, many more.
Yes. And that's why we were so honored to have these people do our show. It was amazing.
Yeah. Well, back then, as I mentioned several times, you debuted in '72. So you had Electric Company, Sesame Street, Mr. Rogers. Were those the big three that, not like they were really competition, but those were the other three shows that were really geared towards children?
Yes, that was kind of it,
Yeah.
And then there was Sid and Marty Krofft shows too.
Oh, yeah. HR Puffin stuff, Sigmund and the Sea Monsters.
Sigmund and the Sea Monsters, and there was a lot going on that was, I think, a lot better quality than they have nowadays.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
That's just my opinion, though.
No, well, it's mine too, because I think shows back then were more for kid, like shows that were supposed to be for kids were, they were, adults would like it, but they were more geared towards kids. Now it seems like a lot of the cartoons are more geared for adults, and the kids are like, it's okay. I think it's definitely, and the quality was much better, and I enjoyed it. Like when people
Yeah.
always say, "Oh, I mean, I'm 56," everybody's like, "Oh, you're so old." I love being the age I am. 'Cause I grew up, I love the 70s. I love all the things that I went through, and it's just, I have no regrets, and I love the movies, the TV shows, the music, everything about the 70s.
No, you have the best of both worlds and have that because you now can see what's going on now, but you also have the history and tradition of the beginning of good stuff. And so you can now compare. A lot of kids and people nowadays, they don't have any, way to judge. Is this good? Is this not good? I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
so they're just kind of out on the limb. So,
Plus, they don't really know what they're missing to do, because like their whole childhood is this, just looking at their phone. And I'm so glad that I grew up in a time where we went outside and stayed outside for hours and
yeah.
and made our own fun. We didn't have to rely on
And
video
that
games.
brings up something that I'd like to share, is that Doug's working on a new show.
Yeah.
And it's a show that's very entertaining, the same format, the theme song, 3 songs in the show, but it's designed to help kids navigate social media and make good choices and healthy choices. But it's going to be very entertaining.
Yeah.
The Knights of IT.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, I was going to talk about that after, but let's go to that right now. We'll go back to Zoo Revue, because you own Laguna Productions.
Correct.
Is that where the show is coming out from, that production company?
Well, the new shows will come out of there. Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
And how long have you owned that company?
Believe it or not.
Long time.
Yeah, actually 40 years, because when Zoo went off the air, we moved to Las Vegas. I opened my production company there, Laguna Productions, and we were kind of out of the limelight for 40 years without Zoo, and doing, I was doing directing and producing out of Vegas, and Emmy Jo was doing the book.
And I'm going to, yes, I did the bookkeeping for the company, but I was going to swim lessons and piano lessons,
raising kids.
Yeah.
And loved every minute of it, I might add.
Yeah. So where can people see this show? Is it out now, or is it in production?
No, we're still of course looking for financing.
Yeah.
So, but we've got it all planned out, and we're just excited. We know somebody's going to step up and say, this needs to be done. So,
Well, I don't really have a lot of authority, but I'm saying it right now. It definitely needs to be done, especially with the way the world is going now. We need it more than ever.
yes,
I
yes.
think your show resonates now more than ever with the cyberbullying, polarization, all the different things, all the division in the world. We need to bring back the new Zoo Revue kindness that we grew up watching.
Yeah.
That's what we're finding as people come to the conventions and we see their remarks on social media. It's
and the innocence that little children have.
Yeah.
They should be able to enjoy that innocent time in their life. And that's one of the things that I think that people love about New Zoo Revue, and why they want their grandchildren to see it now.
Yeah. No, I loved it. So are there any other shows that came out of Laguna that I would know about?
No, but a lot of the commercials for Las Vegas you probably knew about,
Okay.
which is kind of a weird thing, a juxtaposition of a kids show host and doing commercials for Vegas, but we kept it going,
No, exactly. You do it all. I love that. Did you ever think about doing like a new Zoo Revue? Maybe not you two starring on it, but maybe being producers and behind the scenes and just putting out either with new hosts or maybe even animated.
Yeah, we actually found an animator that grew up on our show, and he did a wonderful animation.
I wish Joanna would maybe she'll put it back up on Facebook, but He did the theme song. He animated it, and it was perfect.
Yeah.
It was absolutely brilliant.
And we had a lot of people say, now that's the way it should be
Yeah.
brought back. So
I would
we
love
used
that.
we used
Yeah.
the same, we used the track, the original track, but Emmy, Joe, and I and all the characters were animated. It was
But he
2D,
captured-
2D, but it was charming.
He captured everything
Yeah.
that needed to be captured on the show. And I think that's a good idea. I think I'm just gonna write Joe and see if she'll put it back up so
Yeah,
everybody
it's
can
up there,
enjoy
but you
it.
got to scroll down.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, after this interview is over, I'm going to check that because I didn't see it. So I would love to see that. 'Cause I think,
Yeah.
did the person that do this, does he have plans to do maybe even animate some of the older episodes?
Well, you know, we're still working on that too. Again, it's money and
Oh.
you know, people want to get behind it, but he did it out of a labor of love.
Yeah.
And
He's one of our new zoo kids.
yeah,
Yeah.
he grew up on the show and he said, "Man, I'd like to animate this." And we worked together on it, and it was just a labor of love, but it's a great showcase for
Mhm.
what could be.
Well, I guess the good thing with now, the way things are, we have things like his Kickstarter where you can I'm sure the new zoo kids, I'd be more than happy to put some money into getting this off the ground. So all these different kinds of ways to raise money where I'm sure more than, if you put it online, more than a lot of people would probably donate to get the show off the ground.
Well, that's a good,
We'll see.
that's a good thought. I wouldn't be opposed to that.
Yeah. Well, I have several friends that they make low budget movies and they do the same thing too. They have Kickstarters and they've made their movies from doing that. So I think it's something to look into. I would talk to your daughter about that.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
pretty good. Yeah, we will.
All right, well, let's go back to Doug and Emmy Joe, the early years. I want to talk about that. So
Okay.
you mentioned earlier that you both had a love of theater.
Mhm.
How did the two of you meet?
Well, I had gone out to California to do summer stock.
Go back.
Go back.
Let's go back to the
to
very
New
early
York.
years.
Well, early. ABC Television had a contest where they were going to award 17, I think it was 17 scholarships to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. So they have this nationwide contest. And I just thought, well, I think I'll enter. And I didn't expect anything, but I kept going to the next level. And I think my parents began to think, she may be leaving Texas. She may be going to Manhattan. And sure enough, I won one of the scholarships along with Cleavon Little, if you remember.
Blazing Saddles.
Cleavon. Yep, he was one of the scholarship winners. And so my parents allowed me to go to New York. And the school was the American Academy of Dramatic Arts is still one of the premier acting schools in the world. And it was just an honor to be there and to work with the people that were teaching.
I have to brag on Emmy Joe. You won the Helen Hayes Award for Best Actress.
Well, I did, but
You don't have to be humble on my show.
She's
Please
not.
brag.
She's not just Emmy Joe. She's an accomplished actress.
it's been a lot of years, but I enjoyed it. I loved it. I loved putting on costumes. I loved playing in Shakespearean dramas, and
Wow.
Chekhov was a great Russian playwright. But anyway, I had promised my parents that I would come back and finish college at SMU. So I did that. And then I was going to, as part of that, I went out to Santa Maria, California, and was playing Portia in The Merchant of Venice and Masha and the Three Sisters. And lo and behold,
This was summer stock.
Okay.
Doug was in the same company.
Ah.
And we just hit it off.
Yeah.
And then when I found out that not only was he a brilliant writer and I loved his music, he was getting up at 5 a.m. and going to play basketball.
Mm-hmm.
And that really sealed the deal for me because I come from kind of a sports oriented family.
Yep.
And I don't know, we just fell in love, and
Yeah.
we will be married 54 years in December
Wow.
28th.
Congratulations.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
And we have 3 children and 11 grandchildren. So,
Wow.
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
And I almost say 6 children because our kids have wonderful spouses.
Mm-hmm. No, you definitely it seems like the two of you had the best life. Growing up, doing the acting, you had a hit TV show, now you have Laguna Productions. I mean, it just seems like everything. I mean, I'm sure you had your bumps in the road, but
Oh, everybody has bumps.
Yeah.
exactly.
We've had some big bumps,
Yeah.
but for us, the center of our marriage is our faith in the Lord, and we pray together and we just work through things, and we just things work out over time.
And we laugh a lot.
And oh my gosh, we laugh a lot.
You can't take things too seriously.
No, never. I love to have fun, and so you have to have your serious moments, but you can.
And every
Yeah.
day of life is a gift.
Yeah.
When I wake up in the morning, I just think, thank you for another day of life. I'm going to make the best of it and enjoy it.
Yeah. Well, it seems like the two of you are doing that, and right now you're enjoying going to all the conventions. I met you at, as I mentioned, Super Mega Fest. And what was the first one you went to? Was that San Diego?
Oh gosh, Joanna got us into the one in San Diego, that big one, the big one.
Yeah,
which
Comic-Con.
was amazing. I'll never forget that. That was amazing.
Yeah.
But
we had never, I didn't even know about it.
Comic-Con was.
No.
She said, "Oh, Mom and Dad, you're going to love this." And off we went.
Well, one of
And
the
it
reasons.
was great.
Oh, no, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I mean, and we figured that we should bring one of the characters because we didn't think anybody was going to recognize us after all those years. But we knew that a green frog, somebody would recognize.
That's why we brought Freddie, because we thought nobody's going to remember who we are.
Oh no, we zoo new zoo kids. We remember. Believe me, we don't forget.
Thank you.
Yeah, so it was fun. It was that's an experience to go to San Diego for that one. And then we went to one in let's see, where's the other place that we went? Yeah, Philadelphia, and then
locally in Allen.
Yeah, and then there was Boston. Boy, we loved Boston.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
What a great city! Oh my goodness.
You know what's funny? As soon I was going to the convention, when I told people that I was meeting you two, like, oh my God, I want to go. I wish I can go. I'm busy that day. One of my friends who went to go see Janet Jackson that night, she was so angry that Janet was that night. She wanted to go see you two, because just like me, she grew up watching that show, singing the song, learning, having fun.
Maybe we'll come back someday.
Yeah,
we would love to go back to Boston because we didn't have near enough time to do the sightseeing, and we did take a trolley ride, and we were out on the river. And was it the river that it was the river.
Charles.
Yeah, I thought we were in the harbor, but I found out we were on the Charles River. So
there's one convention I'm not sure if you heard of, but I go every year. It's every 6 months, every April and every October. The Chiller Festival, Chiller Convention.
Oh, I've heard about that. Yeah,
we heard about that.
Yeah,
you heard about that.
I've heard of it.
You two would go over extremely well. They would love you there. I mean, I met the cast of WKRP in Cincinnati there. I met the cast of Happy Days there. I met the cast of What's Happening. All these great shows I grew up watching, and you two would fit right in.
Thank you.
Well, it's really, I didn't anticipate enjoying coming back so much, but it is so much fun to meet our new zoo kids like you.
Yeah.
And I love the Facebook page and the Instagram page that Joanna has started.
And the family reunion.
Yeah, she's got another page that's just for you new zoo kids, the new Zoo Revue family reunion.
Mm-hmm.
And we get to see pictures of everybody and their families and see how they've grown up. And it's very rewarding. It's really fun.
Well, what I found surprising, and let's talk about this, is one of the reasons that you had no idea how popular you still were is because you never read your fan mail until years later. Why was that?
Well, you want to tell?
You tell them.
Well, somebody sent a package of fan mail. We never saw any fan mail during the show. We just did our jobs, and I don't know where the fan mail went.
We were secluded.
We were secluded.
We were prevented
One of
actually
kids,
from seeing it.
one of our new zoo kids had all this fan mail, and I'm not even sure where he got it.
It was at a garage
A
sale.
garage sale?
Yeah, he and his wife were just rummaging around, and they looked, and there was a new zoo stuff, and
Yeah.
they said, you know what, honey, this we should buy this and send it to Doug and
Oh,
Emmy Joe.
what a
They need
gift.
they need to see that this is their stuff.
what a gift.
And so
And we just sat there and
cried.
yeah, and we're reading all of these poignant letters and messages from children. And it actually, it really hurt me because I felt like all of these kids deserved a response.
Yeah.
You know, they deserved something.
Well, they got a response, but it was the corporate response,
No.
you know,
It wasn't from
and
me.
it was
It
not
wasn't from
from
me, and it wasn't
from the
Doug.
heart.
Yeah,
It
it wasn't
wasn't
from the heart, you
Yeah.
know, it was like, thank you for writing the news. It were, you know, it's just,
Yeah.
come on. It was, so, but,
But it was a
Yeah.
very kind thing for him to do.
Yeah.
Very thoughtful.
and then he sent another one,
Yeah.
another group of letters. And so it was really fun
Yeah.
to go back and see the impact that we
Yeah.
had, you know?
And we get letters now from our new zoo kids.
But we
And,
we
yeah,
respond now.
we respond, but you know, it's nice to be in touch.
Yeah,
I'm very proud of all of you kids.
yeah.
Well, we thank you.
You've grown up really well, and I say this a lot, but it's just true. So many of our new zoo kids are just making wonderful contributions to their communities, and I just love it. So many professions are represented, and you know, it's just great.
Yeah.
Well, we have Doug and Emmy Joe to thank you for that.
Well, you're all out there
Well.
making a difference and making the world a little kinder,
Yep.
and it's wonderful to see.
Yeah. We need that now, like you said, Rich.
Yeah, we need more than ever right now. And that's why I'm so glad that this is the perfect time for your resurgence, that you're coming back and be in the spotlight again. So I'm so much looking forward to what's going to be happening in the future with maybe the animation and some of the other shows that are coming out. I definitely want to check out the other one that you mentioned about kids navigating through the social media. I would love to see that one too.
We're excited about that.
Yep. Well, I want to talk about, you mentioned it already, but I want to talk about the first day of the fourth season? What happened?
Oh my goodness, my water broke. I said, Doug, I think the baby's coming. And he did this, I'll never forget it. He just sat up like that and went, oh, of all days. So we went to the hospital, got me settled in, and then he had to go back, of course, to the set because he had the whole crew, everybody was waiting for him. And but it was okay. He didn't want to, but it was okay because Joanna was born, and she just precious. She's precious now, and she was precious then.
And now because of that, because that happened, that's when the guest stars were invited to come on.
Which is a perfect segue.
Because they you know, couldn't take the place of you, but they were instead.
Yeah.
So we had to navigate that, and you know, but it was fun having a lot of those personalities on.
Well, let's talk about that. We had Chuck Woolery, Mr. Dingle.
Yeah.
We had
Chuck Woolery was on when
Yeah,
Emmy Joe was
I
on.
remember.
yeah.
Chuck was Mr. Dingle with Emily.
Yeah.
So it was good.
Well, he was one of the guest stars, and that's where he got his start. But then we had Richard Dawson, Family Feud, and Hogan Carols, of course. Jesse White, who's the Maytag repairman. Joanne Worley from Laugh-In. Fran Ryan from Gunsmoke.
Yeah.
Henry Mancini, which we're going to talk about in a minute. But then the next one I want to talk about, because I met Dawn Wells, who played Mary Ann Gilligan's Island. She told me a story about one of your guest stars, Jim Backus, who played Mr. Magoo, and he also played Mr. Howell.
Yeah.
She was telling me that Jim Backus said whenever he was playing Mr. Magoo, whenever he's like mumbling, he would say the nastiest, meanest words imaginable, and nobody could ever tell what he was doing because he would just say it under his breath. But every time Mr. Magoo would mumble, that's what he was doing.
Oh my goodness.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, you have a wealth of information at your fingerprint.
I can tell you.
No,
He didn't mumble any vanities or anything. He was very cool.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to ask you. Because I mean, I've never met him or anything, but I've seen interviews with him. He just seems like he had this great personality. And from when I met Dawn Wells, she was telling me she loved working with him. He was so much fun to be there with. So you had the
Oh,
same experience?
yeah, he was wonderful to work with. And now he wouldn't memorize his lines. We had to do his scenes over about 10 times each because he was always ad-libbing and going off script.
Yeah.
But other than that, he was doing great. He might have been nippling a little bit. I don't know.
I wasn't there, so I don't know.
Then you had Pat Paulson, who ran for president,
Yeah,
and June Lockhart.
yeah.
A lot of great people. I want to talk about you're a musician, and Henry Mancini is such a great composer. Obviously, the Pink Panther and so many other movies.
Yeah. I mean, he was amazing. And as a young composer myself, here I was in Freddie's rowboat on the pond talking to Henry Mancini, and this was like a dream come true. And I had to get some advice from him, so I said, "Well, Mr. Mancini, you've done so many things. Can you give me a hint? What should I do? How should I?" And he said, "Just keep writing. Don't worry about it."
No,
It was just great.
I love that because when I was in radio, the advice they gave me was that the more no's get you closer to a yes. Like, don't give up just because somebody tells you no. One program director, just go to the next one. Eventually, if you just keep doing it long enough. I mean, it doesn't happen for everybody, but if you give up, you never know if you're going to make it or not. But if you just keep writing, doing what you're doing,
Yeah,
something's
Keep on
going to happen.
keeping on.
And
yeah.
even if that door doesn't open, another door is going to open. And for me,
That's right.
so I have so many opportunities because I have so much persistence, so much dedication to like what I love doing and so passionate about, and I'll just keep doing it. And then so I love that he gave you that advice because I have lived the same way. Just keep going.
I still live that.
Yep.
Somebody says I can't do it, I'll do it.
Yeah. Good for you.
Yeah. Well, you know what I love too is the people I mentioned are so great, and all these great entertainers said, "Yeah, I would love to do your show." How hard was it to get them on your show?
It was easy. I mean,
Yeah.
the show had gained popularity. We had been to the White House 2 times, and we were all over the country in over 200 markets, and they really wanted to do it, and they enjoyed doing it, and so it was a lot of fun for all of us, all the characters, the costume people, the voiceovers, and talent, and we all just enjoyed it.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious, what years were you at the White House?
Oh, I don't remember.
1972.
72.
Yeah, it was right after the show went on. We were invited back.
So who was that? Was that Nixon?
Yeah,
It was, okay.
yeah, both times, both
Wow.
times.
What was
Yeah.
he like? Because I've heard I
We
interviewed.
we did not meet him.
No.
We met, I'll tell you who we met. We met Mrs. Nixon when we came at Christmas, and she did a party for the children of the foreign diplomats in the White House, in the East Room, as I recall.
Mhm.
And then when we went to the Easter egg roll, that was Trisha, one of their daughters, and we met her. She was lovely.
Yeah.
So
Well, I have to say, I interviewed Victoria Price, Vincent Price's daughter, and she said that she went to the White House with her father, and she did not want to like him. She thought he was going to be a jerk, and she said that he was one of the nicest people she ever met. He was so friendly, so he didn't talk down to her, and he showed her all around the White House. So everything that was said about him, what happened was Watergate. But she said that like her father yelled at her. She goes, "I don't care who it is, you gotta be respectful." So she said, "All right." And then she said she ended up loving being there.
Yeah.
and just to be in the White House,
Oh, exactly.
it's just so awesome, and there's so much history there, and
Hmm.
and it's very patriotic, and it's a wonderful experience. And no matter who is president, it's the institution of the presidency that's important.
Did you go with the characters?
Yes, we did, as a matter of fact.
Both times, all of them.
All three characters.
I
Now,
love
we
it.
didn't go with the voiceover guys. We went with the dancers, and I pre-recorded a show specifically for the White House.
Wow. I'm surprised was that ever recorded that I could find it on YouTube somewhere?
No,
No.
never.
of our White House.
Yeah.
But there are some good pictures.
Yeah.
We got some great
I think
pictures.
Danny has a couple for sure.
I
Yeah.
definitely have to check those out. So you both mentioned you came from theater. You loved the live theater aspect. How difficult was it going from live theater to taping on film?
Well, it wasn't terribly difficult. It was challenging. There
Yeah.
are new things you have to learn, but as you know, we just had such wonderful people in the crew and the other characters that were very helpful in helping me learn how to perform in television, which is very different from being on a stage where you have to project
Mm-hmm.
to the last row.
Yeah, I mean, you have to let the camera do the work.
So
I know exactly. Plus, when you have an audience, you get that instant reaction. So you know they love you immediately, or if they're not into it. So when you're recording, you're like, hopefully this is going over well. How does this look? How does that sound? I know you can go back.
You
and
just don't know. You don't know. I mean,
that's why Doug was saying, let's look at that take again.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I love this.
All right.
It's fun. Did you two ever take the songs that you wrote on tour?
No, it was only on live performances where they were pre-recorded, and I would take my guitar and do song live, and then we do a song that was pre-recorded. So that was the only way we did that, you know.
Did you ever come out with any albums?
Just the one
Just the
from
one?
Disney. Yep. That was it.
Well, going through your YouTube channel, I noticed that you sing a lot of songs on YouTube. I love that.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's my daughter's convinced me to give it a try. It's hard, but I'm doing it.
No, you're doing a great job. I enjoyed it. I went through, I want to say, if not all, most of the songs on there, and I enjoyed every one. So
Thank you.
Keep it up.
Thank you. I'm going to, as long as I can keep learning.
I was hoping you had your guitar right now. I'd love to have you sing a song.
No. In fact, our dog, I think, needs to go out.
yeah, I think we're gonna have to plan a part 2 of the interview.
Okay.
Because I don't know if you've noticed me looking down, but our dog, we have a new dog, is a rescue dog, and I think he needs to go outside. So
Okay.
we might have to plan a part 2.
I think it has to be done. But before we go, if you have a little bit of time,
Yeah.
what's next and where can people find you?
Well, what's next is, like we were saying, these new shows we're hoping will find a place in the television landscape, or now it's all of the social media landscape. But then what's next is we're going to keep doing what we're doing. We're going to keep doing personal appearances and meeting, you know, people like you, and just enjoying ourselves and enjoying the rebirth of New Zoo Revue. That's what next.
And we just thank you so much for
Yeah.
allowing us to come on your show, and it's been fun.
Oh yeah, no, it's been a great time. As I mentioned, I grew up watching the show. It was an honor to meet you two, and I definitely cannot wait to meet you two again and have you back on the show, because we just sort of like.
Well, we would love to do
Yeah.
that. We
And
would
really
love to
say
do
hi
that.
to your girlfriend, and we were
Yeah.
praying for her that everything she
Yeah.
recovers well.
Oh, yeah,
We would love to come back on again. The next time I'll make sure that the dog's gone to the bathroom first.
And I'll see if I have any new facts for you.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
you were a
you're
wealth of
amazing.
them.
You're amazing.
I'm actually going to write them all down when we get off the air.
And the one thing I was thinking about, you said you could write a song about anything. I should have you write a theme song for my show. I would love that.
Yeah. Hey,
Yeah.
you know what? Give me your bio. I'll do it.
All right. We will be talking. Doug, Emmy, Joe, it was a pleasure. I will definitely talk to both of you soon.
Okay.
Thank you.
Get in
Oh.
touch with Danny.
Oh, I most definitely will. That wraps up the latest episode of The Claw's Corner. A huge thanks goes out to Doug and Emmy Joe from the new Zoo Revue for taking time out of their extremely busy schedule to be a guest on my show, and they will be back, I promise you that. A huge thanks also goes out to editor extraordinaire John Bristol of the award-winning Elmwood Productions for always doing a superb job editing the show each and every week and making it available to all on YouTube. I am also extremely grateful to Rob Bull and Joseph Timothy Quirk for all they do to make my show available on several Connecticut radio stations, as well as Spotify, iTunes, Amazon Music, Audible, and iHeartRadio. And lastly, but definitely not least, I need to thank you, the viewer, for always tuning in. Enjoy your day, everyone.
sudden I hear, brim, brim.
What's a diaphragm again?
Ha! We caught one.
They're supposed to be weird.
Oh, yeah, no. If you say so.
I've always wanted to be in a movie.